Good afternoon, good morning actually, ladies and gentlemen. My first observation, seems like there are more men in the room. So we are starting on a positive note already. So thanks to all our male counterparts for coming in. I'd like, obviously this has to be a very interactive session. If you can take a minute to introduce yourselves, maybe key highlights in your journey, and really what makes you stand apart other than being the fairer sex. We'd love to know.
Hi everyone, my name is Gunjan and I'm the founder of UClean. So a little bit about UClean. UClean is India's largest chain of live laundry and dry cleaning stores. We are present with over 350 stores across 110 plus cities in India today. I started this journey with my husband and my co-founder Arunab in 2016, and we launched our first store in 2017. So little bit about my journey, that I have always been, and I was just listening, and I was supposed to be actually a part of the first panel, but like all women would kind of relate with me, married and with kids especially, that when we wake up in the morning, we do not know what bomb is going to get dropped on our heads. So my driver called in sick and I had to just manage on my own in the morning. So that's the whole thing. But coming back to the point here, that I think what makes me really stand out, apart from being the fairest sex, is that, when you're it's like when you put a lot of pressure on a spring, right? It bounces back harder, it bounces back, higher. So I think that's the thing with women, that the more we are put under pressure, we are more put under, a lot of asks and multitasking that we are expected to do. I think that's kind of makes us work harder and makes us prove ourselves even more. So that's been the story of my life, and
makes sense. Makes complete sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Sunaina Harjai and I'm founder of the brand Hats Off Accessories. So Hats Off Accessories is a direct-to-consumer handcrafted luxury footwear brand which I started in 2015. We're an e-commerce company, and back when I started, I had just graduated out of college and I was very keen to establish an Indian footwear brand, and I was not even aware about the scale and growth that e-commerce could probably project in the upcoming 5 years, 10 years. I had no idea. But I had studied retail and I knew that online would be the next big thing. So that's when and also I was short on funds, so I couldn't have opened a store. So that was my way forward, creating a luxury footwear brand, and also kind of capitalizing on our Indian craftsmanship and capitalizing on the manufacturing that we have in India, and launching a brand. So we started with styles like brogues and loafers, which I knew are very niche and not widely sold out in all the footwear brands in India at the moment. So that's about me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sakshi Vij. I have been a mobility professional for the last 17 years now. I've spent most of my time trying to make everyone in this room and beyond travel in four-wheeler vehicles. So mobility solutions is what I work on. I represent, I started my career purely because of the availability and interest that was there within the family on mobility. We have a 23-year-old company called Cars on Rent, which is where I started my career, which was at that point of time primarily a B2B ride-sharing solution provider for corporates across the country. We then went on to diversify, raise capital, move into areas such as radio taxis, work with most of the major airports in the country. We do run close to about 10 million passengers on an annual basis. in the business. Over the last 3 years, though, I decided to also build and work towards the very core of mobility problems that exist in the country and actually across the globe, which is ownership of vehicles itself. And that's where I launched my current brand called Myles. We are in the business of vehicle subscription and sharing, where we work with vehicle manufacturers as well as with dealerships, fleet operators, etc., and enable people to own vehicles without the hassles of ownership. So that's pretty much what I do. I'm deeply passionate about the shared economy and as also the circular economy, and about sustainability in mobility as an area, and that's what I work on. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. A quick few lines about myself. So I'm not professional, interviewer here. I'm part of them. But Resham here, I think this is my second or third round, and she thought maybe this time I could ask the questions, and maybe last time I asked her too many questions, that's why. But to tell you a little bit about myself, again, my career spans 20 plus years in data and what is so-called artificial intelligence now. I broke out of the corporate life in 2015. Because I just didn't want to travel overseas anymore and contribute to the brain drain. So all my corporate clients were big banks from the West, and they boasted of the most top-end, apps and people services. But I thought it was us servicing them, and I thought it's time to bring global expertise back to India. That's where Elixir AI was born. We now service purely domestic clients, and out of domestic clients, we also decided to make the first foray on the government business side of it. Now, mind you, 5 years ago, when I thought this aloud, and usually you think aloud with maybe your parents, and I said my first client is going to be a government client. There was silence on the dinner table, okay? Because, government is again equated with maybe politicians, and fortunately, unfortunately, that's not a forte maybe a so-called woman can go. So I'm proud to say I think I've broken those barriers. I entered a room full of politicians, corporators, IAS officers, purely men, at the back of my head thinking, all sorts of things that I've been told if a woman enters a room like that. You can imagine it. To my pleasant surprise, I'm here on this platform to tell you nothing like that has happened in the last 8 years. It has been the best professional journey thus far out of my 20 years. There has been no, I've only been included. There has been nothing else. So I think we got to get out of our comfort zone sometimes to also challenge what are the so-called ways of the world. And what is the worst thing that can happen? You can get rejected, but that's only one door. There are a million other doors. So that's where Elixir has been. We have 3 government contracts now, where we've defeated the top consulting firms, the big 4 consulting firms. I'm always the only woman business owner sitting with a particular commissioner of a city or a chief minister and giving my thoughts in a very, very strong manner. So I think there's nothing to be afraid of, and I hope, and I just wanted to come here, share my journey. Along the way, we've empowered a lot of talent, well-deserving talent, whether be it men, women. I particularly want to state that we've provided a lot of opportunity to deserving candidates, maybe not from fellow panelists like how Smita Roy is doing, But you know, a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities, women who have difficulty explaining to their families on why they need to leave home and move to a metro. You know, and that, I guess you're allowed to move out only if you're in a very serious kind of job or whatever, and maybe working in IT or AI or, you know, a woman-led, you know, organization is that serious job. We have women who've come to Pune, living on their own, breaking the barriers in their own homes and families and setting new trends. So I think that is what is Elixir AI's biggest achievement thus far, and we will continue to strive to do so. Coming back to the panel, I have a question here for all of us. Okay, what is your benchmark as an individual? Is it really that man sitting across the table, you know, vying for the same business like you are? Or are we comparing ourselves to another man? Or should we really have our own standards and our own benchmarks? Like, sometimes, why are we trying to compare?
Okay, I'm going to start. I think we place benchmarks for ourselves based on what value we put to our own abilities. Any individual can put a benchmark to a variety of mentors, people who inspire us, people who we look up to, etc. Whether it's a man or a woman really doesn't matter. If the objective of if the objective is growth, if the objective is making an impact in the area that you're affiliated to or that you like, etc., then the intelligent thing would be to really look at what's the who's sort of making, who else is making an impact in that sector, and are you able to look up to them? Now, whether it's a man, it's a woman, it's a you know, it's an animal for that matter. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's important to look at a man. But you know, to your point, you also, I think from where you're coming from is that a lot of times there isn't an option but to look at a man doing something similar in the same field. I have been fortunate to be in an industry where, while the automotive sector is full of men, right? It was always considered a man's job. Over the last 5 to 7 years, there has been a tremendously inviting nature that has happened in the business, where a lot of women have entered the business, have made their mark, and are showcasing what they are capable of doing. And in introducing, you know, more women in the business, the sector has actually seen a benefit, and therefore, it's not true that all the women that came and said, hey, there are all of these men who are doing stuff and I want to do the same thing. They actually came with an understanding saying, this is the state of the business because there are all of these men doing it. Maybe I can disrupt this business in a certain manner. And I think that's what helps you make an impact a lot better as well.
Well said. And I think that has proven that we have our own benchmarks and we are not really looking to compare with another man sitting across the table. We are competing with competence. And I think that is what we should really be doing. Hello, Tanisha. Welcome on board. If you could give us a quick introduction about yourself.
Hi, my name is Tanisha. I'm currently running my second startup. It's called Stonks Studios. We're a content house, and in the last 18 months, we're a collective of 70 plus creators in different fields like design, content creators, illustrators, animators. And in the last 18 months, we've been able to break through this very competitive industry of advertising and create a niche. We actually are the central social voice for brands like Google India, Swiggy. We launched IMDb in India, and now we cater to other brands like YouTube creators, Flipkart, Myntra. So yes, that's about me. Been doing this for the last 8 years, and extremely excited and super sorry to be slightly late today.
Nice to have you here. The topic is, also how each of us has disrupted or is looking to disrupt the current industry in our own domains. For you, Sakshi, you've, I think, already proved disruption. You had already a setup in terms of cars on rent. And what is that one motivational factor which led you to really, you had it all done already. What is that one factor that drove you to do what you're currently doing?
So, I think the idea that I had it all done, if you mean from the perspective that there was an organization that existed and that's what I joined into, yes, I did.
My point is you could have taken the easy way out and said, let me just, continue.
Correct, yeah. So, yes, but I think for me, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father was actually a first-generation entrepreneur, and he made an organization which was then invested by private equity investors like Sidby and Sequoia and all of these. So we were not running a family business, and we do not run a family business. And therefore, when I did decide to join it was from the objective of learning, and I am hugely passionate about learning as such. The sector was nothing to write home about at that point of time. There was no Ola, there was no Uber, there was no, any of the other mobility providers that existed at that point of time. But the learning curve of being in an industry that was at an inflection point at that time was very interesting for me. And I think that's what led me to then say, hey, what else can I do? What more can I do in this sector? And that's when we started working towards solving for other customer problems that exist in mobility. I didn't want to do what was already been done. I mean, I think that'll be a waste of my energy, my my age and my talent or whatever. I obviously wanted to do more. The idea was also that how do I make a mark for what opportunities I've been given. I didn't want to take them for granted and say, hey, let's just keep on doing this and it'll go wherever it'll go, because it's very easy, especially if you're in a sector that's disrupting so quickly, it's very easy to become stagnant. And if you become stagnant, then that's your downfall. That's never going to be something you'll be able to sustain. And which is why I wanted to keep reinventing myself, thinking about other solutions that I can provide in the sector.
Lovely. That's what makes you a disruptor. So, Garima, you mentioned that, you were that spring which was really, kind of compressed, and then you broke out. So what is it that really made you cite that example?
So I am I come from a fairly conservative Punjabi family. I'm the first girl in the family who started working. I'm the first girl who actually started her own business. And it was, like I said, it's just the spring. In our last panel, we also discussed about the fact that, how do women break out of the shadows of the men in their lives? Whether it is, your fathers at home, or your, partner whom you've started your business with, or your husband, and anybody. So that's the part of the spring that I was talking about, that when I was growing up, the conversation never was around, what do you want to do when you grow up? It was always that when you grow up, we'll marry you off, at this age or something like that. So this breaking out of that mold that was set out for me, and that expectation that everyone had of me, is the pressure I was talking about, And then, and that was the first time I did it, and over the years I've realized that you have to keep doing it. Right? Because everyone would want to put you into a mold, or would want you to do certain things that they expect you to do. But that's not your journey, that's not your story, that's not your will. So when I started Uclean also, it came from a belief system that I got married in 2015, and before that I was into a consulting and strategy consulting role. I loved my formals. I was very particular about them. I wanted them impeccable, and my mom used to take care of them. I got married and I realized that, all of this takes effort, and I don't have that time. My maids are spoiling them. And I was looking for solutions, and that's when we started brainstorming about the business. And this business actually came from the need at home. Back then, it was very risky. Arunab left his very high-paying package. He comes from IIT. And both our side of families were very happy that we were both in very secure, good jobs, very well paid, etc. And what are we doing? We are actually leaving all of this to become what? Dhobi. So yeah, I mean, everyone was pressurizing again, if they were not able to pressurize my husband, they were pressurizing me by, giving those emotional speeches that at this age you're doing it, when will you have babies, etc., all of those things. And I think at that point in time I stood firm and I said, no, I think this idea has a lot of merit and we want to give this a chance. And I don't want to, again, this mold that, a girl is married, she's our daughter-in-law, bahu hai, bacha karegi, etc., etc. Why is she getting into business with her husband? She has such a good job, goes to the job at 9 in the morning, comes back by 5:30. Such a good life she has. Why does she want to go get into the grind? Well, that's what I was talking about, and it has been super hard, especially fighting all these social pressures and social expectations from family and everyone. But I think what women need to really, that's just my story and my journey, and I think if you believe something, just don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid. If you believe you want to try this, you want to experience this, you want to learn something, even if it is at the age of, say, 50, and you have to leave a lot of things and you have to put a lot of things on stake, do it if you believe that this is the right thing for you. And I know fighting everyone, especially people at home, is very difficult, and that is the hardest part. But you got to do what you got to do.
I just want to add to what Garima is saying. I'm in the same spot as you. But the funny part is, like, growing up, my father was an entrepreneur, first generation, like your father. We didn't have a family business. He started everything from scratch. So growing up, I've seen him work very hard, and every time I would come back, from school, or every time I've just seen him work really, really hard. And that's something that really struck me, that, okay, I want to be like this man one day. So I would go to his office and sit on his chair, and, like, at a really small age, like maybe I was 10 years old, 11 years old, I would sit on his chair and write some letters and say, okay, he was in export, same business of manufacturing, and I would write letters and say, okay, I want to be in this business. And so I'm just saying, growing up, we, as girls, as daughters, we are never embedded and molded into what probably sons are, that you're going to replace that chair. It's not about not giving us the opportunity. We have the same education, we have the same house, we share the same love and affection. It's just about the support that has to come. It shouldn't be for us to fight it. We shouldn't be the rebels just for wanting to work. So I think it's very much what Garima was saying. I could relate with her story, and it's so empowering and encouraging to see that women out here are so passionate about creating an impact in the entrepreneurship field and creating businesses that have not been created before. And who knows, those were the dreams of our mothers. We don't know this. So we are the ones creating those empires that could have been created generations ago. And I was just speaking earlier that these management skills come from our moms, perhaps. They were the one running homes and managing everything, and perhaps they had those dreams, and now their daughters are taking it to the next level. And this has to be addressed. It is the elephant in the room. People say, don't talk about women entrepreneurship. Why do you want to be given separate validity? Why do you want to be included? These are facts and figures that we have a very low representation of women in startups. We have a very low representation of women founders, startups which are funded. These are facts and figures. Until the time we are not going to address this issue, encourage people, and get that support from the families, it's still going to remain the same. So I just wanted to add this. Thank you.
Thanks for making the point. No, I think very well said. Again, all of us come from different family backgrounds. I can speak for myself when, I come from a family of, we're from Kolkata and education is key and, my mother was a doctor, father, whatever, IITs, etc. So we always came from a field, we are two sisters, we came from a family where we were told to go out, that you have to go make yourself financially independent. So, for me, it's such an eye-opener to understand that within the same society, there is a different world out there, where I always thought, like, what fellow panelist Swati said, we always thought, sorry, Smita, okay, Smita, sorry. I thought, these issues may be limited to maybe the underprivileged or the less educated society, but maybe that shows us we're all human and, we face similar kind of, some kind of backgrounds do converge at some time, at some point. But I guess as more, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but as more privileged, more educated women, I think as women disruptors, we've already proved that here, we don't need to validate that anymore. But, the essence of a woman and what makes her different from a man is really, I think, the amalgamation of the heart and the mind, right? And I think as women disruptors, we should really look to see that small 10% maybe of our business about giving back to society. I think that should be a point of discussion among us because we do have more softer skills than probably man sitting out there, more sensibilities. Our sixth sense works a little bit more. So I was hoping to kind of, agree on that with fellow panelists here and really see how we can give back more to causes. I'm not just talking social causes, but really upliftment of women in this society, and it has been proven by facts and figures, and the top consultants of the world are doing studies on around how the most leading economy will be the one who has the most women inclusion from every field. So I'm hoping that I am trying, whoever here is trying to do that, I'm your partner in crime, and I hope really we can do that. So having said that, I think, incredible. It's an honor to be on this stage with you, but really open for any questions in, since we are pressed for time.
I just want to take 1 minute here. And through this, opportunity that I'm sitting on this podium, I would want to talk about one thing that, just to borrow your thought, that what we're doing at UClean is that in terms of empowering not just women, but also people from all backgrounds, if they want to learn the skill, UClean has actually launched a program called UClean Pathshala. So if you want to get skilled in the cleaning services business, whichever background you come from, and this is especially for the ones who are, from the underprivileged backgrounds, and we would personally want to promote more women, representation in our workforce. If you know somebody, your maid's son, daughter, anybody who wants to learn the skill, we are providing a free stay, free skill development program for 15 days to all those people. You just have to come and apply, for the program. So please, spread the word amongst the people you would know who would benefit from something like this.
Yeah. I'd just like to add a few things. I mean, firstly, such an honor being a part of such strong, incredible women on this panel. And recently we saw Barbie, and there was this quote that said, "Mothers stand so daughters can see how far they have walked." And it's so true that because of you guys taking the first step and holding the doors wide open for us, it's helping so many of us enter this space, and like we are going to do the same thing generation after generation. So thank you so much. And I'm so proud to tell you that when I started my first startup at EFG, right, I started as a passion project because I wanted to make some extra pocket money. Went on to creating 5,000 products, license out from WB Disney, sell to like 900 plus D2C stores. But COVID hit me really hard, and I think I just couldn't let go of like entrepreneurship or getting into any other industry. So when I was told that, hey, you're great at product, maybe you should continue in this industry, I said, you know what, I've learned this, I want to try something else. And I entered services. And while I'm not a creator, I love the business of creators, and the creator economy is booming so much right now. And I can proudly tell you, Stonks is a 48% female workforce and with 30% women in leadership roles. And I just think it's incredible how far we are coming and how much we are being recognized in every sector. Initially, I was just watching the live telecast where we were talking about Boys Club, but I think that is really breaking, and we are getting the space that we should, while we still have a long way to go. I'm really excited to see where this goes, but I'm so grateful for these women over here because I think they took the first step so we could keep following them, and especially our mothers, so thank you so much.
So we are open for questions, if any. I think we have about 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm Sharmila Das, and I must say that it has been so inspiring to listen to both the panels, and so inspiring because I could, gather my courage only in my 40s, and in fact mid-40s, to become an entrepreneur. Before that, I was, working, doing well, a leader in organizations which are well known, but never had the courage. And it is delightful to see the panelists who have actually taken that step at such a young age. My comment is not really a question, it is an observation from what I have picked up so far from both the panels. I think women, more than a man, will always struggle with the imposter syndrome much more. So this entire feeling that maybe I have really not achieved this success, maybe somebody else or some other circumstance was responsible for the success that I am feeling, and hence, a bit of a fake, bit of a fraud kind of a feeling. However, whatever both panelists have actually spoken about, whether it is self-belief, whether it is self-love, and whether it is about having that courage and confidence to keep doing what they are doing, seems to be breaking the imposter syndrome. So the biggest lie that has been fed to so many of us in India especially is about, you are a woman, you are like Dash Bhuja, you are like Durga, and you can do so many things and you can do everything perfectly. And I think that is the ceiling which is getting broken today from what all of you are saying, that it is okay, just keep walking. You may not be perfect, but just keep walking. So thanks a lot.
I just want to add to that. Actually, I feel as women, especially, I've seen that with my mom as well. And I think why we face this lag is because, firstly, we've grown up with so many traditional roles that are assigned to us. And all of a sudden, when we are able to do these things that probably only men were supposed to do, there's like this inner guilt that like, hey, yeah, like it's all self-inflicted first and then like by others, that hey, we also need to come back home and do the traditional roles, which is what I'm still fighting, right? Like when I'm going into the next phase of my life where I believe, do I need to be A or do I need to B, or do I need to be an amalgamation of A and B? So yes, I think it's more personal, and I hope we can all break it, but yes.
Yes. Hi, panelists. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience. experiences. And as again a CEO of an incubator, I would like to raise one point over here to get your insights. We as an incubator, when interact with our students and the youth of the nation in different ways, so what gap we feel, that I want to understand from your side. What is the right time to start your startup? Because when campus, these students are there and we as an incubator supporting them by all the means, then we keep on getting their feedbacks and interacting with various alumni as well, that it's better to understand a corporate culture and industry operations before starting your startup. But see, once we start, as an employee, then that kind of greed, the association with the workplace, earning a fixed salary every month, that becomes, I think, as an incubator CEO, what I feel, student life is a better way. But I want to understand from you people, from your experiences, the roller coaster ride of an entrepreneur, what you suggest on this point.
I'll take that. And that has been a point of many of my blogs or write-ups, because I think, this word unquote entrepreneur can be used, misused. It can ruin many lives. I think the true answer to your question is maturity. And there is no set equation to this. Every person that comes to you or student that comes to you has a different family background. If he comes from a family of entrepreneurs, of businessmen, he probably has, an insight.
Better understanding.
Absolutely, he has a better understanding. But even before that is maturity, and I think that is in your hand to understand how this person can accept rejection, which will be many, before you get your first acceptance, and how he or she can accept failure, whether he will be able to stand up and walk again. So I think, really the power is in your hand. Someone's life is in your hand, and based on these two decisions, it cannot go wrong.
Yeah, that is all fine, but as we do cater engineering background, so that managerial skills, those type of marketing, branding and all, those challenges are quite at the managerial part. MBA is required. They have technology in their hand. They are innovators. They want to pursue their career as entrepreneur, but that is quite tough. Definitely.
Absolutely. So it comes with an educational background. It comes from the idea or the use case that you are working on. But again, going back, some people do really good internships and they learn so much in 6 months. So maybe that person is ready. It took me 15 years of corporate life to start my own startup. And I think I was ready only now. I couldn't have done this before. So I think it's on a very, very individual front.
I want to add that, something to that. I was thinking, entrepreneurship is purely based on passion. So you can't give it a age, you can't give it a qualification that if you've achieved this, only then. There are many founders who've come from huge corporates and have gone into entrepreneurship later and probably perhaps have failed or created a unicorn. And on the other way, you can see there are a lot of people who have not had access to that kind of job experiences or internships or those MBA and have created some big companies. So it purely is driven by your passion. If you have a passion for creating something, you'll find solutions. So I know it sounds very bizarre to people in education, but I feel that's a core quality of an entrepreneur. You can't teach anybody to be a business person. That's a skill set that they have to inherently have that. They have to have that drive, because you can teach them to do it once, twice, thrice. After 3 months, when they're broken down, they have only that one spirit left in them. That's what keeps them surviving. There are rough days, there are rough patches, it's a lonely drive. There's no team building exercise happening in the first few years of your journey. So it's a lot about you and the founder and the co-founder's journey, putting all of this together. And that is purely driven by passion. following up to what you said, I'd never joined the corporate. I remember I had my first job. I am in a shoe company. I was recruited by a shoe company. He said, hey, join our team. I said, because they saw the passion in me for creating something, and I did sit for placements. And I don't want to name the company. And I went there and I said, okay, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to dedicate some 2-3 years of my life to corporate, learn, and then start my company. I went there first day and I said, this is not something I can do for the rest of 2 years. It's going to burn me down. It's going to leave me completely driven out. I won't be able to do this. And it was 12 hours that I had to spend from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on that job. The first day I thought, I can't do this. Some might say that, okay, you're giving up and you're taking an easy way out. But I instead chose to work 24 hours. So my next day, it was working round the clock. Even at 2 a.m., I'm sending an email. So it's not about me putting certain hours in a corporate checking in, checking out that defines what my future will be. So it's very important. Luckily for me, I had my career like that. So I had driven the kind of education, the kind of projects, the industry exposure. I had rooted. I was so keen to achieve everything that somebody would achieve at 40 to do it in my 20s. So I took that opportunity. I was very passionate that I want to sit across people who are far more above me, and I want to be in the same room as them, despite my age. So that's what I want to share. I think passion is definitely be a big takeaway for entrepreneurs. Thank you.
So passion it is. Ma'am, we'll take the next question offline if because the time doesn't allow me to take another one right now. But they're all here. They won't go anywhere. Don't worry. They'll answer all your questions, only then leave.
I don't have a question. I just had something to share. Can I request you to do it?
Oh, 20 seconds only. Can you do it in that?
Yeah,
so
since we are talking
20 seconds
about,
precisely.
And I'm so thankful to BW for this format where we can almost have a conversation with all the ladies we look up to. And coming from a non-traditional field myself, I worked in the construction sector for 8 years. And it is not a traditionally, even my parents were like, why don't you do interior design? As if that's easy. No, it's not. But then again, and when we look for good godfathers in a non-traditional field, hardly any women. So I think it's more about learning from the best rather than seeing whether it's a woman or a man. So, and that has worked well for me. And a lot of, as of today, I have my own startup. I delivered a baby in the lockdown. That's not something a man can do, neither is expected from them. So I think as women, we don't only have challenges and inhibitions or taboos imposed by societies, but as Sharmila ma'am also said, we are multitaskers. We can, realize from our strengths, and it's so inspiring to listen to all of you. And I think there is no substitute for merit, whether it's a man or a woman. If we have the skills, if we have merit, and I think the right time or the age is to start the moment we have a dream and when we feel we are ready. Age or situations in life should not define, like even Sunaina ma'am said, we should not have any limits imposed on us. Whenever we think we are ready, we should be able to do what we want. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your journey, let's say, in 30 seconds. Not 20, but we'll allow that.